picture this. You're a rich lord in the medieval times. You've got a nice castle with a huge library that has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. And you're happy, you're rich, you're wealthy, you know more than all of the slaves and stuff of your realm, but one day you overhear a trader talking about some sort of chemical magic that the lord of another land has figured out. You, being a powerful, jealous ruler, decide that you're not going to let this slide. You're going to be the strongest guy in all the land. You're going to decide that you want to learn this dark arts that he's doing, and you've come to know it as alchemy. You've heard rumors that it can turn metal into gold or eternal life, and it really just thrills you, the idea of the whole subject. And so you've got your library, but the books that you have are either completely unrelated to alchemy. They're stories on random things. You got the Odyssey or the Iliad or something like that. And the ones that do reference it are cryptic. They've got very vague recipes and mystical references. They're also centuries old, passed down through secretive circles, and some might not even be written in a language that you can understand. There's no comprehensive guides or explanations, just scattered pieces of knowledge. But you, being ambitious and rich, aren't going to let that stop you. So you order your alchemist laboratory to be set up. You fill it with a manner of equipment, furnaces, retorts, alembics, etc., etc. You gather ingredients that, according to the texts, are crucial: mercury, sulfur, salt. However, the instructions on these different books that you found are contradictory. One book tells you to heat the mixture slowly, while another insists it must be done in a single sudden burst. You try the first method, and after hours of toil, the result is a massive explosion. After the smoke clears, you're left with nothing but a charred mess and a lingering sense of confusion. Now, what if, instead of a powerful ruler with unlimited riches, you were just some normal teenager in the modern age? If you set your sights on alchemy, a quick consultation of ChatGPT on chemistry will have a detailed overview of the entirety of that scientific field within seconds of you hitting the enter button. Hell, the AI will write out its multi-paragraph answer faster than the time it took for you to type in your question. Unless you're a really fast typer, I guess. So how does this relate to studying? Well, if you haven't connected the dots already, let me spell it out for you. When the printing press was created, the ability to seek out knowledge and learn things increased exponentially. For the non-mathematically inclined people, that means getting bigger, faster. And when the internet came to be, that exponential curve just got steeper. And now we have artificial intelligence. It is my understanding that that curve of knowledge is now a vertical asymptote. That means it points straight up. Now, you might think that this is exaggeration or hyperbole, and it very well might be, but AI has truly changed everything, and people haven't even realized it yet. I'm going to show you just how overpowered AI is for learning, and since this is an SAT channel, I'm going to use a few SAT questions to be our example. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So before I can show you guys this actual process in action, I'm going to explain to you the method that I've discovered to be the most optimal way to study anything using ChatGPT or any sort of AI. And it's going to be called the Trigradus method. Now, excuse my absolutely horrific handwriting. I'm doing this with my mouse. So the Trigradus method is what it's called. And it's pretty simple. Trigradus just means three in Latin plus step in Latin. So it's obviously a three-step method. Now, method one is called the application. So what I want you to imagine this to be is like you're just scanning your card to a credit card machine or whatever. You're basically just taking information that already exists here, and you're just plugging it into our system, which in this case is AI. Now, your actual information, this part right here, can be anything from maybe an MCQ, so a multiple choice question, maybe it's a paragraph, maybe it's just any information, really. You're plugging in the information to the AI, and the AI is going to give you an output, which typically, especially for the SAT, is just going to be in the form of an answer. Now, this is the easiest step. This is the most simple part, and I think many of you guys are probably already doing this when you're cheating on your homework assignments or you're, using AI for really anything. Is you just plug information and you receive your AI's answer. Now, step two is pretty important, and it's what a lot of people don't do, and that's called analysis. And so, as the name implies, we're basically just going to take that information that ChatGPT gave us, and we are going to analyze it. So this answer here, it's usually going to be pretty brief since it's ChatGPT, but we're going to take it and we're going to ask questions, right? We're going to inquire into the meaning behind maybe some of the little aspects of its answer. And you're going to want to do at least one, at least two questions, so we'll say 2 plus, because if you're just asking one, you're probably not asking the right question. And now, this step cannot be, skipped. Even if you think you understand entirely what the AI is saying for its answer, that doesn't necessarily mean you just don't have to ask any questions. You still should be asking questions just for the sake of asking them. Because the more questions you ask, the more that you think about the concept or whatever that's introduced by its answer. And when you're thinking about it, you're encoding it in your brain, and so you're going to remember it better, which is kind of the whole point of studying. You're also going to understand it better conceptually if you have this 3D view of it instead of just having, blank, here's the answer. It's better if you can ask questions so you can see more perspective. Now, those questions could be anything like, explain X in further detail, or it could be like, why not, whatever. And these questions are just going to kind of help you understand it better. And by doing that, we're running it back and forth in our brain repeatedly. And that's also what the next step is about, is practice. And step 3 is reapplication. So we're going to reapply the concept. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to take whatever concept, whatever thing was brought up by this answer, and we're going to take our original information as well, and we're going to combine them in this third step. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask ChatGPT to generate 3 practice problems. And we want to ask it to generate 3 practice problems exactly like the original question. Exactly. Because what we're going to do now is with these 3 problems, with problem 1, with problem 2, it's not a 2, and with problem 3, is we're going to take our answer from ChatGPT, and we're going to take our explanation from ChatGPT, and we're going to use them to solve each of the problems. And so the first one, it'll be pretty simple. You'll take the answer, you'll understand why that's the answer in this problem, and you're going to find, well, if this is the answer in the original problem, what's the answer in the new problem? Because they're going to be very similar. The second one will pretty much be the same process. And by the third question, you're going to be able to determine the answer to the third problem without having to reference your analysis or ChatGPT's original answer. You're going to see the pattern. And what this is going to create is the absolute key to crushing any standardized test and any test in general, and that's pattern recognition. Every time you ever see another problem of that type, you're going to recognize it from this training that you've done with AI. And since you have that pattern recognition, you're going to not only save time, but you're going to know how to approach it and how to get the correct answer. So let's see it in action. So we've got our question all typed out, and now we're just going to ask, and here's step 1, which is just first application. And here it gives us the answer. B was her exhaustive I misspelled that. Survey of plants, a pristine tropical forest in Kerala, India, that is home to nearly 1,000 species of native flora, many of which are endangered, was instrumental in the government's decision to preserve the forest. Now here's our explanation. It's 2 sentences. The subject of the sentence is her exhaustive chromosomal survey is singular, and therefore the verb must also be singular, which means that only one of these answers was singular, and that's was. So that kind of makes sense. To me, I understand that pretty easily because I've studied the SAT grammar for a long time. But to most people, that's probably not going to be enough. And so I'm going to ask that question. We're going to do some analysis of this ChatGPT answer. And, we're just going to go right in and we're going to ask it, how can you tell that the subject is singular? And it's going to give us this big spit out answer, which is identify the core subject. The main noun in this phrase is survey, which is singular. So then we're going to ignore prepositional phrases. So of plants in the Silent Valley is a prepositional phrase that describes the survey. Prepositional phrases do not change the number of the subject. The key noun remains survey, which is singular. Now, survey is singular, obviously, because it's survey and not surveys. But now that you're kind of getting deeper in this answer, you're understanding it more. And since survey is singular, the verb must also be singular, was, not are, have been. Now, this being a pretty simple question, doesn't really require too much analysis, but I still think it's best to ask, one or at least maybe two or three questions just so that you can really lock it in. And now that I already have kind of a brief understanding of why the correct answer is the correct answer, I can just ask one more that's very simple. That's just like, why do we ignore the other aspects of the sentence, i.e. the mention of location? And ChatGPT is going to give me this answer, right? It's going to tell me to find the core subject, and I ignore modifiers. You guys get the point. So now, here's for the most important part of all of them, and that's for the reapplication. So all you have to ask it is say, give me questions exactly like this to practice solving. And obviously we want to do 3 questions because 3 is really good. And it's going to give us 3 questions exactly like the one that we did. The extensive analysis of ancient manuscripts in the monastery's library, which contains the thousands of rare texts and artifacts, blank, crucial in uncovering lost historical narratives. Now, here we can see, based on the way that it told us to do the previous question, which is by identifying the core subject, ignoring the prepositional phrases, and matching the verb to the subject, we can say that, well, clearly, in this first question, the core subject is analysis. We're ignoring prepositional phrases like ancient manuscripts and this library, etc., etc. So analysis is not, it's singular, not plural, because it's not like analyses, I think that's a word. It's analysis. And so we need to find a singular verb. Are, was, have been, were. Well, it's going to be was. It's exactly like that top one. His detailed investigation of marine ecosystems along the Pacific coast. So investigation. Blank, instrumental, was. Once again, the rigorous evaluation of experimental drug trials. Now, it's not, these drug trials are not our subject. It's still evaluation, which is singular, so once again our answer is going to be was. Do you see that, though? Now that we've kind of done this application analysis, we understand the original premise behind the question, it's very easy for us to understand the pattern of the question, and that's by seeking out this subject and finding whether or not it's singular or plural. And this, I think that you guys pretty clearly saw that there. I was able to get this answer before I even really read the full sentence, and that's because of pattern recognition. I had trained myself by the third question to recognize this pattern of, well, this is a singular subject, and so therefore we just need to look at our answer key, and was is the only singular one there. And so you can see how just using this application process, it makes it so that you put these patterns into your brain, and you are always going to recognize them. So if I ever see another SAT question that's anything like any of these 3 or the original one, I'm going to just be able to instantly recognize it from my trials with ChatGPT, and I'm going to be able to get the right answer right away, which not only is going to give me points for getting it right, but it's going to save me time, which is really important. So let's just apply that now to another SAT question. The artistic talents of whatever. So boom. Already, based on my trials and application with ChatGPT, I'm good at recognizing what is very clearly the subject of this passage. And so, just based on that, artistic talents is plural. She has more than one talent. We're talking about her artistic talents of, this lady most known for, and then this is our prepositional phrase. This isn't really important because this is just giving background information. There's also a comma here and a comma here, which means that this is called a non-essential clause, which I have a video on. But anyways, blank limited to the realm of prose, and so we don't have to look at this either. And, well, artistic talents hasn't been, wasn't, isn't, aren't. Plural, singular, 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 plural. See? You see how because we were so used to that pattern that ChatGPT showed us how to analyze, it's it's actually just light work to do any of the other stuff. It's totally easy. And watch, we'll do it again. The animal which lays eggs but also nurses blank. So what's our subject? Well, animal. Okay, so it's singular because we're talking about a single animal. And this is kind of tricky because obviously there's many platypus, but we're only talking about the kind of the platypus as a whole. That's why it's the animal. So which lays eggs but also nurses. Its young. Well, there is plural. There is kind of, well, that's singular, but that's just completely wrong. And then this is it is. So we know it's not that. But once again, just based on the same kind of method and pattern recognition that ChatGPT showed us how to do, we come to the correct answer again.